Hello and welcome back to another Tech Articles. Today I'd like to cover Devkit by Dplugins. It forms a staple of my development environment and I use it whenever I'm doing any sort of development or I need to do some of the key features that it does on a site for fault finding or testing or pretty much several of the videos that I've done. I would have used it to some degree in them, and it's a plugin that's been out a little while. It's now on its second version, and yeah, I don't feel it gets a lot of love in the community. It's not mentioned a lot. It's a ridiculously cheap lifetime license, and it's particularly useful. I find it particularly useful, so I thought I'd go over some of its key features today in a video, share them with you, so you can get a better understanding of Devkit and see if it's of any use to you. I yeah, I have a lot of love for it. I use it a fair bit, so why not? I'm going to start by installing some plugins using the installation interface. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to select these options of overwriting. There's nothing installed on this. This is a blank local installation, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I should say that WP tasks after install will probably fail. It's not failed. It's just because it's going to activate and then immediately deactivate because it's done its tasks. But it may look like that on the screen, but that's actually what the plugin is meant to do. So I'm going to drop these in. It's going to install, and it did exactly say what it said, but it is actually installed, and it has activated, and it has done its thing. So if I go down to Devkit, and one of the plugins I installed was Fluent Snippets, which I will use in a second to do some more testing. And that's how it works. It installs your plugins by just dropping them into the install area, and away you go. So we've installed our plugins, which I'm going to use in a few minutes, and I'm now going to go over to settings, and I'm going to start enabling some of the other items that are available to us as a Devkit user, and one of those is Admin, a lighter weight PHP MyAdmin solution. Really useful for delving into the database for when you're working, for options, transients, all of those things. And I'm going to enable debug while I'm here, create a new log, and enable JS errors. And then I'm going to go to my plugins, and I'm going to go to Fluent Snippets, actually, and I'm going to copy some code into Fluent Snippets and call this a test. I'm going to create that snippet. I'm going to activate that snippet. And the reason for this is because to show in the error logs in Devkit, I need to add an error to my error log, and this is possibly the easiest way of doing it. So I'm now going to go over to my error log. Oh, and like that, it's creating my errors for me, and I can use Control and R, or I believe it's Options. It will. I don't know what it would be on a Mac, but Control and R on Windows, and it will continually refresh my error log for me. And that's it. It's logging my errors. They're there. They're in my dashboard. I can see them. They're not cluttering up my screen. They're not doing anything that I don't need them to do. They're right here in Devkit. Anyway, we don't want that for the rest of the video. So we're going to test another one of their features, and that's the reset. So we're going to select all of these options, and I will go through them before we push the button. And so we're going to reset the database, just keep me as the admin user on this local install. We're going to delete any content that's on here. We're going to empty out the WP content folders. We're going to delete everything except for Devkit. And we're going to delete all themes. And then we're going to push reset. Now that's whirling, and it's done. So if we now go to plugins, we only have Devkit. There's no task after install, and there's no Fluent Forms anymore. Fluent Snippets anymore. So we go back to Devkit, and that's the WP reset option. Another useful option is File Manager, and in fact, to do this, I'm going to pause here, and I'm just going to install a couple more plugins so that we've got something to manipulate in the File Manager. Right, welcome back. I've installed the same two plugins as before so that they're there, they're in our directory, and we can see them. So this is File Manager. It works as you would expect a native file manager to work. It also has a lovely right-click menu item, which I love. And if we navigate to our plugins and we look at Install After, we can see our files here. They're here to edit. Same with Fluent. There's our items here to edit. And if we, I don't know, if we back out of here and open our debug log, that'd be a good example. We can see we've got an editor here to edit our debug log. And if we go back out, and I'll open a PHP file because it's actually coloured as we need it to be. It looks like a proper editor. It responds as if it's a native desktop editor. It's quite performant. It definitely does the job. I'm now going to go back to our settings page because we need to add one of them back so that I can go through it with you. Our next page we're going to go through is thumbnails. This is where you can register new thumbnail size, remove existing ones, and update or change what your thumbnails are within your WordPress installation. As I say, really useful for setting up your installation before you do any work or for doing any dev work on. The server information tab contains some useful information about upload limits, PHP versions, error log locations, memory limits. Really useful for fault finding, having that information available to you when, particularly if you're working on an environment that you're not familiar with. If I'm migrating a site for somebody and it's particularly on a host I know nothing about, I find this relatively useful for giving me that quick information I might need. And we've done settings, and I'm going to now load adminer, which will load in a separate tab and will give us direct access to our database. And here we are. This is our database within an app, within our WordPress installation. No having to go and find the database access, no entering the control panels. We have direct database access within our WordPress installation, which is really useful. And you can do all of the things you would usually be able to do in a database manager from WordPress. Now, that's Devkit pretty much in its entirety. And as I say, I use it a lot. I've got a lot of love for Devkit, but I think there are some improvements that can be made. And actually, I'm going to end the video by going over my wish list for Devkit, what I'd like to see Devkit add in the future. How, for me, as a user, Devkit can become the perfect plugin for this sort of work. And I've got a few items here. I'd like the ability to upload a text file of URLs and have those installed and activated rather than grabbing and uploading zip files. For me, in the UK, we don't all have asynchronous upload and download speeds, so mine's pretty poor. And actually, it would be useful for me if I can use them straight from my plugin repo, install a text file, upload a text file with a load of installing URLs, and it'll just install and activate them for me. I would find that really useful. And actually, I do have a plugin I use for that is a modified version of Bulk Installer. But it would be nice to have that directly in Devkit as an option. The error log, I would like to see it split out, automatically reloading. Very similar to how Debug Log Manager works, actually, which is another staple of my dev environment. And I'd like to have error logs one side, the WP debug log the other side, and I'd like them to be able to turn constant reloading on and off as needed so that I can really get into the nitty-gritty without having to change screens. So obviously I have a multiple monitor setup. It'd be nice to have it on one screen doing one thing while I'm doing something on another and be able to see on the screen in front of me what that effect is having on the logs and what my issues are. And I think that'd be a really nice upgrade to Devkit. I'd like some sort of variable inspection functionality. Again, I install Variable Inspector Pro on pretty much all of these dev environments that I'm working on because of its VI and viz options to allow me to check variables and see where we are in code that's going wrong. and I'd like to see something similar integrated in Devkit, and then I can I'm bringing my typical install and dev environment down from 3 or 4 plugins down to one absolute brilliant single function. And actually, I think it's best it's with Devkit than the others, because the others are single purpose plugins, whereas the purpose of Devkit is to be a Devkit. I'd like to see some more options added for clearing transients and setting and changing options as well. Another thing that I can quickly do it with a snippet, it's not an issue, but to have that within Devkit would be quite useful for me to clear all transients. I've had to do it a few times where something's gone awry and there's transients all over the place. I'm not sure what's going on. Just clear them all, reload them, and then we can work from there. And equally, options. Sometimes when developing, I need to change options quickly, and I might want to change something from true to false. Quite often, in fact, so having to go into it breaks your workflow. Having to go into a different snippet manager and change that way, or actually open Adminer and manually change it. It breaks your flow to just be able to go into to have it open on the screen and go on, off, true, false, whatever. Uh, Within Devkit would be really quite useful, and that to me would start to polish this off as really the only plugin I would need for that sort of dev work. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I will finish today by saying that currently Dplugins have a sale on, a back to school sale throughout September 2024, the time of this has been recorded. There's 40% off if you use the DSchool code during checkout. That, I believe, is a really good deal. If we go to their site and we look at their products and we find Devkit, I think it is $35. You get 40% off at the minute. You get 199 domain install license. It's a lifetime license. Yeah, save yourself 40%. Get a plugin I think you'll find useful while you're developing, particularly if you don't develop locally. And yeah, I hope this video has been useful. Please like, subscribe, and comment if there's a program, a plugin, a SaaS, or something that you would like deep dived, or ways to work, particularly if it's WordPress related. Thanks for watching.